I'm going to just start off sharing a little bit about Central Texas Mycology for folks that aren't familiar with us that might be joining us for the first time. So we formed in 2019. We're a NAMA affiliated club, and our mission is to strengthen the conservation research and study of fungi in Central Texas. And so we host both online and in-person events ranging from walks, talks, and community workshops. And our next class that Andrea mentioned is going to be in Bernie. So we're going to be doing our first kind of low-tech mushroom cultivation class with the community out there. So if you're in that area or if you know people in that area, tell them for sure. And then on fall equinox this coming Sunday, we're going to be out at the Wildflower Center doing our first block giveaway. So it's a real big kickoff to fall. We're excited to get back into the outdoor mushroom growing season. And you'll want to keep your fungi peeled and make sure you register early. We have events coming up in Austin, East Texas. We just added some mushroom walks in East Texas with mycologist David Lewis. We have the San Antonio events, some events in Pflugerville, in Oklahoma too. So if you have friends in Oklahoma, we're going to be out at the Oklahoma Fungi um, or the Mushroom Festival. So definitely check that out. And so just briefly about myself, you can follow me at forage.atx if you want to see what I've been up to when I'm finding out in the wild. But for a long time, I worked as part of the tech community, doing clean tech. I eventually was able to quit. And now I am part of the Earth's internet, as Paul Stamets calls it. So I'm all about helping people connect with the outdoors, get more of that green time, less screen time. I do a lot of urban gardening, foraging, and I love doing classes on growing mushrooms outdoors. And I grew up in Missouri, but I've been in Austin area or in Austin since 2001. And the first mushroom that found me was the destroying angel. And of course, as a youngster, it having my name, it seems like an obvious one to gravitate towards. Um, so today we're going to talk about the history of the community block recycling program. We're going to talk about the challenges within the mushroom cultivation industry that there are and why we chose to make this like a big part of our organization. Then I'm going to share a lot of really cool research and techniques on how to upcycle mushroom blocks to grow more mushrooms, feed animals and livestock even, build fungal rich soil, clean up contamination in soil. We're going to see lots of success stories of communities that have partnered with us to use these blocks. And then at the end, we'll share a lot of ways and explain how you can also get involved. And so I just want to note too that I'm keeping things pretty high level tonight because we do have a lot of hands-on workshops, and I know that's the best way to learn. We also have a lot of video series and things online where you can watch and get like step-by-step instructions. So I've included QR codes, and this talk is going to be recorded, so you can always go back and get the QR code that goes to either the research I'm referencing or the video or whatever I'm talking about. So I, sourced a lot of things. There's a lot of information, and I'm hoping that, what you learned tonight will help you deep dive and continue on your path of learning how to build community with fungi and keep that mycelium running. So feel free to ask your questions in the chat, and we're going to get to them in the end. And as again, like this meeting is recorded, so you can always watch it back on our YouTube channel, and make sure you smash that subscribe button whenever you get there. So just kind of looking at the big problem. So, about 5 million tons of spent mushroom substrate is being disposed of globally every year. And mushroom cultivation also produces about 3 times its weight in waste. And so, when it's sent to the landfill, it can produce methane emissions. And as we know, that's very harmful to the environment. And so, today, we're going to learn how to turn this trash into valuable treasure and how you can also use it to grow your community. And so, little history, the block rescue started back in 2015 with Daniel Reyes from Myco Alliance, and he was one of the early founders of Central Texas Mycology. And he was doing mycoremediation and cultivation and different education out at the Myco Research Station, which is at Circle Acres. And so um, before the pandemic, he moved to Mexico, and the program continued when Central Texas Mycology formed in 2019, but it really took off when Snowvid happened. And who can forget, right? So everyone lost electricity, including one of the mushroom farms. So the farm rented a big truck and dropped a truckload of these blocks in my yard. We shared pictures on social media, and hundreds of these blocks that had been cold shocked for 4 days were gone within a few hours. And so everyone had been kind of isolated and cooped up during that time. And as we all know, like mycelium is this ultimate connector, so it makes sense that they were gone so quickly. And so, through a mycelial network of over 200 volunteers, we rescue and divert about 500 tons to over 100,000 blocks annually from landfills. And so we now have over 30 neighborhood pickup locations, including garden stores like the Natural Gardener, community gardens, schools, churches, um, places like Gardopia Gardens in San Antonio. And you can sign up on our website and get a link to this map, or you can also scan this QR code. And since the program has started in 2020, we've had 11,000 people sign up to get blocks. And with donations, we're able to provide over 150 mycology education events per year. And so we work with about 20 different educators and are always looking for more enthusiasts and experts that want to help us help the community connect with the mycelium. So definitely reach out to us. So again, you can scan this code to get this map and find out what neighborhood spot is closest to you. We also have Facebook neighborhood groups, like subgroups on our page that allows you to get uh, uh, live updates and get alerted when drops happen. So you might be asking, what are mushroom grow blocks? So commercial farmers grow gourmet, culinary, and medicinal mushrooms like oysters, lion's mane, reishi, shiitake in these plastic grow bags, which are filled with sterilized organic blend of sawdust, grains, and nutrients that feed the mycelium, which is this white stuff. And so the bags are kept on the shelf in a controlled environment that simulates the temperature, um, which is favorable outdoor, like typically outdoors where the mushrooms like to grow. So around 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and then a humidity around 80 to 90%. And this is like the ideal growing condition for mushrooms. And so once the blocks are fully colonized and covered with the mycelium, again, like the white stuff, it is ready to fruit. And so the bags are cut open, and the oxygen, because they breathe oxygen just like us, right? Um, the mushroom then begins to fruit, and they fruit really fast. And it's so fun to watch them grow so fast. So after 3 to 7 days, the mushrooms are ready to harvest, and the blocks are given to Central Texas Mycology by the mushroom farms. And so, as a community, we take them to be composted, grow more mushrooms, do all kinds of things with them. And this is why the bags are already opened. And so after the first fruiting, these are often discarded, in landfills in a lot of situations. And so, however, we know that they hold significant potential for a lot of food waste solutions and upcycling projects. So gourmet mushrooms that grow in these bags are wood-loving decomposer fungi that consume um, the material, the sawdust and the grains and the nutrients with their enzymes. And so there's a difference. This is very different from what you may buy from the grocery store, like portobellas and criminies. They are dung-loving mushrooms, and they grow on manure. And this substrate is also used for composting in farms like Kitchen Pride here in Texas. They do give away and they repackage. There's companies that repackage this material and sell it as mushroom compost. And it's a byproduct of growing this way. But this type of compost, I want to warn people, they use salts in them, like soluble salts that can be harmful to young plants and kill germinating seeds. And I want to make it really clear because when you do a Google search on mushroom compost, you get all these warnings and studies from like Penn State because these mushrooms are so commonly grown. People think that what we're doing with our mushroom compost program is bad for plants or they contain salts. And I've heard it multiple times. And I just want to be really clear. Like salts are not used with wood-loving mushroom compost. So what our program works with, again, is the wood-loving kind. And this is a dream to work with. And I'm going to cover all kinds of cool research today. So why do we want to do this? Why do we want to upcycle these mushroom blocks? So they help reduce waste, improve soil health, save water, promotes regeneration, enhances food security, provides resources to the whole entire soil food web, plants, wildlife, down to the microbes, and then to humans when we produce food with them. And so the environmental impacts are vast and wide. And so one of the other reasons is we want to prevent greenhouse gas reduction. So by diverting this organic matter from landfills, we reduce methane emissions and promote this sustainable practice. And so composting mushroom blocks in aerobic conditions minimizes the methane production. And so carbon sequestration can still happen, even though these are decomposer fungi that do help with the carbon cycling and release. Adding the composted mushroom blocks to soil can enhance the carbon sequestration. And so as the organic matter in the compost binds with soil particles, carbon is then trapped and preventing it from being released in the atmosphere. And so I'm going to show you guys some techniques, which like trench composting is one of the most popular ways that people can grow mushrooms in the garden. And that's like a really, really good way to kind of keep that carbon in the ground. So you're also going to increase biodiversity. So increasing soil organic matter promotes biodiversity both above and below ground. So we know when our soils are healthy, we're healthy, our plants, our pollinators, everybody's healthy. So we have a more resilient ecosystem. So one of the most straightforward ways to upcycle the mushroom blocks is to grow more mushrooms. So mushroom cultivation requires a fraction of water compared to other food, and these blocks can produce multiple flushes of delicious, nutritious mushrooms until it runs out of food. So let's dive into the steps of getting a second fruit from your mushroom grow block. So you want to keep the mushroom block in the existing bag and place it out of direct light in a cool environment around 65 to 75 degrees. And a Martha tent or a shotgun fruiting chamber, and I'll show some photos here in a second. It's a great idea to contain spores and help create a humid environment when temperatures are too hot outdoors. So you want to spritz with water 2 to 3 times per day. After about 2 to 3 weeks, the mycelium, the white stuff, will start to develop pins or baby mushrooms. And you're going to want to start watering more frequently because a new flush or a new fruit of mushrooms will be ready. And so you're going to harvest them with the knife before the caps curl up because that's when the mushrooms want to spread the spores. And again, you want to try to contain the spores. You don't want the spores going everywhere because they will reproduce, especially oysters. I've seen so many photos of oysters growing in every part of people's houses. And so here's some examples of like a Martha tent, and things can get pretty pricey if with a Martha tent if you want to do like air exchange and have a humidifier system. But if you like a shotgun fruiting chamber is like a really inexpensive way to do things. And you see perlite there in the bottom, which is holding the water and preventing from bacteria and mold from growing as well. And you can kind of see that in this example, they laid down aluminum foil and they took the blocks actually out of the bags here. So, um, you can also use a monotub, but monotubs are really for dung-loving mushrooms. So I also want to note too that trichoderma or green mold can is one of the things that can happen, one of the contaminations that can happen when you're growing indoors and when temperatures are over 80 degrees. And we're still in that period, unfortunately, in Texas. But I just want to note that trichoderma is a very beneficial endophytic fungi that causes a lot of problems in these sterile environments. And although if you find a mushroom block that already has green mold on it, that's a good thing for your garden. And it's in a genus of the soil dwelling fungi that's found all over the world. And it's one of the more effective and most easily grown fungi in the world. And plants that have it in their roots, it helps them establish their roots and it helps activate plant defense response. So we recommend people just use it as mulch or put it in your compost if you do see this growing or you don't have a successful first grow. And a lot of times this will grow because of overwatering and not enough airflow, things like that. So those kind of key things you want to think about. So, growing mushrooms outdoors is recommended once temperatures drop below 80 degrees. And studies show that mushrooms that get exposure to UV have 300 times more vitamin D. And we know a lot of people are lacking that vitamin because we spend so much time indoors. And so studies have also found that mushrooms grown outdoors have more nutrients and medicinal compounds in them from the secondary metabolite process. And so after your second harvest of mushrooms from your grow block, you can also use it as spawn. So it's usually like a spawn block that you can buy from like a supply online. There's a few local suppliers, but for the most part, that most people buy this stuff online. It can be really costly with shipping around $40 to $50. But in the winter time, in the fall and winter time, you can just use this block as spawn, break it up, and feed the mycelium more food. So straw is a really good food source. You can even try other waste byproducts or invasive plants to feed the mushrooms. So things like cardboard, coffee grinds, corn husks, wood chips. Get creative. I've seen people in other parts of the country like growing oyster mushrooms on kudzu. And you can use containers like laundry baskets, strawberry pots, 5-gallon bucket with holes in it. I like things that already have holes in it like milk crates, bird houses. I like this old Barbie you can grow even in a cardboard box. And so the main thing is you want to make sure you have good humidity, not too much. Similar with your plants, you don't want to overwater and create mold to grow or create an anaerobic environment, but you want to make sure there's humidity and airflow and keep everything in a shady spot with dapple light. And so I'm currently growing some pink oysters in an old bird cage, and I'm going to bring it out to the Ladybird Wildlife Center this weekend, and hopefully we'll get to see some spores flying out of the bird cage. And so you can get spooky for Halloween and do some fun projects. We love doing scarecrows, so you can stuff your scarecrow with mushroom blocks and straw, or you can use a pumpkin as a container. Uh, the mushrooms, they love sugars, they're carbon eating. So they will eat away at all that carbon left over from your pumpkin. You can use an old Halloween candy bucket. I found this one online where someone was growing lion's mane out of the mouth of the scream. I forget the name of that mask, but the possibilities are really endless. And so you can scan this QR code and watch our video series. It's a little bit older now. We did it about 3 years ago for the Texas Organic Gardeners and Farmers Conference. And we're hoping to add a few more in the next year as well. So as we learn from, new from farmers, etc., we'll create more content to teach people online. And so this isn't common, but I started to come across a lot of really cool research and studies on how people like to use mushroom blocks, especially these wood-loving and oyster mushrooms, to feed livestock and wildlife. And I started to think about this a lot because there was like one winter where there was a squirrel that kept coming into my yard eating this lion's mane, just like tons of it. Like the blocks, like the squirrels couldn't get enough and they were coming back. It was like its memory was like increasing. And for just months and months, it would just eat through all of the lion's mane mushroom blocks. And so, um, I don't think there's a whole lot of studies out there about wildlife, but there definitely are studies on using um, mushroom blocks as like a feed supplementation for livestock. So with like cattle and dairy farms, they can be used with regular feed or used as a roughage source. And studies have found that it provides the essential nutrients and can help cut costs for farmers when there's this potentially free resource in their community. So poultry farms, mushroom blocks can be included in poultry diet in the same way, providing protein, fiber, reducing the need uh, for like for expensive feed. And so a study that explored the benefits of using pleurotus, oyster mushrooms, as a feed supplement in poultry farming. And so results showed that it improved their poultry health and enhanced their growth rates, better meat quality, and the mushroom's bioactive compounds, like it boosted the immunity of the poultry. And we know that's a big issue with, bird flu. So it mitigated and lowered the need for antibiotics, which a lot of people don't want to get in their diet already. And I know some places don't use antibiotics in poultry farming. So furthermore, mushroom blocks can be mixed with the chicken manure, which is this nitrogen-rich thing, and the mushrooms, they need nitrogen for growth and for the mycelium to continue to run. It can be used in a sort of mycofiltration way as well. Especially if like you have an operation where there's runoff and you can mitigate groundwater contamination issues. But it definitely helps like with the smell as well. So mixing in the mushroom blocks in the floor of like a chicken coop with the wood shavings or whatever else you're using can help control the odor. So within pig farms, mushroom blocks can be incorporated into the diet, also creating a balanced nutrition profile. And another study indicates that using the mushroom blocks as a bulking agent reduced the gas emissions from the pigs and increased the compost quality. So yeah, again, you can scan those QR codes to get those studies. So there are mushroom tincture supplements now for dogs, cats, on the market, and more studies show that mushrooms not only are beneficial to human health, but also our pets and livestock. And so this cordyceps mushroom poultry feed supplement is made from the substrate of growing Cordyceps militaris. And this has kind of come about because a 2016 study showed that it enhances immune function, improves energy, better growth rates, increased resistance to disease, and it makes it a great alternative to synthetic feed additives for healthier flocks. And so another reason you want to use mushroom blocks is you want to feed the soil food web. So we know soil health, especially in Central Texas, both in cities and rural communities, have been negatively impacted by industrial farming and ranching practices, urban sprawl, and the soils are very bacteria dominant. They lack organic matter and nutrients needed to grow healthy food. And in some parts of Central Texas, soils even have zero organic matter, which can really lead to flooding, erosion, runoff issues. And so you can use the blocks as a fertilizer. So studies have shown that the blocks enrich soil. They contain essential nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. You can break it up, mix it in with your soil, compost and mulch around your vegetables and perennials. And since the species of mushrooms are wood-loving decomposer, they kind of break down that woody matter even further and make those nutrients available for your plants. So the blocks also help save water. So they increase the soil water holding capacity. The mycelium binds to soil particles together with increased water infiltration and porosity. And so this prevents, again, like water runoff and erosion and at a large scale, it can prevent flooding. So uh, the blocks can also help control disease. So increasing your soil organic matter and applying mushroom blocks contributes to the all-around soil health improvements, optimizing plant root structure and prevents plant disease, which reduce the reliance on synthetic fertilizers and pesticides, which can have a very negative environmental impact, especially with runoff and water pollution. So not only does fungi feed the soil food web, some fungi, including the oysters, are considered carnivorous because they consume nematodes in nitrogen-lacking environments. So first, the fungi lures the nematode by excreting a compound that smells like food. At the same time, it is excreting a nerve gas-like toxin, which paralyzes the hopeless nematodes. The mycelium filaments, known as the hyphae, then strangle this nematode, and it becomes nitrogen that the fungi consumes. And so if you have a nematode problem, I know there's like beneficials and not beneficials. You can try adding oyster mushroom blocks to your garden to see if that helps. But you can scan the QR code here, and there's a really fun video that shows another carnivorous fungi eating a nematode. It's really fun to watch. So trench composting, these are different methods of composting with mushroom blocks. So trench composting is when you bury food scraps, or you can also bury last season's plant biomass and mix it in with mushroom blocks directly into the ground. And so this method is very effective for materials that attract rodents that really like meat, dairy, and cooked foods. So you could even throw that kind of stuff, your kitchen scraps in, if you have a lot of them saved up, or you're doing like terrestrial type composting, you just take all that and bury it. And citrus is pretty cool. Like the mycelium will eat through that citrus, so you can actually compost citrus this way. So I like to do the trench composting method in my footpaths between rows. And then I cover them with cardboard and then put wood chips and maybe even more mushroom blocks on top of that. And then um, the following season, I can turn that fresh compost and add it onto my rows. And so when it rains, the rows are usually fruiting mushrooms, which is very exciting and magical. And I can also, that's another food source in the row. So that compaction too that happens in a row does not affect the mushrooms. It actually helps them. They like to bind and connect, right? So you can use mushroom blocks for worm farming, vermicomposting. Studies have shown that it increases the nutrient density. There's improvement in the phytohormone content of vermicompost. We've just started getting into doing classes, and we'll hopefully do another one here soon on using the Johnson-Su bioreactor method of composting. And so this is a very passive way to build soil teeming with microbes and fungi. There's no turning or smells, and you can't use kitchen scraps with this method, but in less than 12 months, you'll have soil that you can use for compost teas, also to divert all kinds of organic matter and fungal foods from the waste stream. And so I'm going to share a few photos. So here's some examples of, in a little video of me gathering a yellow oyster mushroom. I did some trench composting, and I also just grew potatoes. I just threw whole potatoes in, in with my trench composting. So I had a really good potato harvest that year, as well as mushrooms. I also grew cover crops with my potatoes. Here's some other examples. So this was out at the Myco Research Station at Circle Acres. And they used oyster blocks and wood chips along a hillside to kind of prevent erosion. And after about 6 months to a year, the soil from the mushroom bed can also be used for soil remediation, sort of an inoculant. You can use it to fertilize other plants, mulching around trees. You can use it as compost, or like even if it's really, really degraded, it's great for starting plants. So if you're growing in trays and pots, you can use this material for that as well, or the soil for that as well. And I didn't include the study, but there's some research being done. I think it's still in process. I don't think anything's published, but I got to see the study at the Texas Mushroom Conference, where they were using just straight up mushroom grow blocks from different species of mushrooms, like chestnuts and oysters. They're mixing it like 50-50, like mushroom blocks, and then 50%, I think, peat moss or cocoa coir. And they were growing, different plants and doing different trials. And it was found that it was a good medium for growing plants as well, like the initial results. So here's some examples of the Johnson-Su bioreactor. There's a couple different ways, and we have a tutorial on our website, and there's a lot of different ways you can build them. But essentially, as I mentioned, it's like a no turn, like you just have to water it. So it's a really great composting system. So I know that a lot of people are really into killing their lawn these days, which is really, really great. And you can use the mushroom blocks to increase the decomposition rate of sheet mulching, which is a no-dig permaculture gardening practice of removing the unwanted vegetation and building very fertile soil by layering organic matter and letting it compost in place. And so this methodology is effective in eliminating that turf lawn that's very water hog. And you can grow water-saving natives and pollinator plants instead. So we did a class a while back on how to do this, and you can scan the QR code to watch that class. It's really great. It's with Leah Cherner from Delta Dawn Gardens. So I'm going to finish off sharing some really great research on, and this is a lot of new things that we're learning, and this is continuing to emerge as more funding goes towards studying fungi. So we're going to talk about mycoremediation. And as we know, fungi are like the chemists of the earth. They can be used for mycoremediation, which is a process where fungi are used to degrade or sequester contaminants in soil and water. And so many white rot fungi use enzymes that break down complex organic pollutants, such as petroleum hydrocarbons. So this study from the Journal of Environmental Health, Science and Engineering shows how oyster mushrooms can degrade oil spills and other petroleum-based pollutants. And some of these studies even show that you can even eat the mushrooms after they break these hydrocarbons down. Don't recommend this, but the mushrooms are completely intact, or like they tested them for toxins and didn't find any in the mushrooms. So pesticides and herbicides. So Fungal Biology has a mycoremediation book that shares research on how fungi like oysters, turkey tail, shiitake, trichoderma, agaricus mushrooms, they can break down agriculture chemicals in contaminated soil and water. There's this next study shows how it can break down plastics and rubber. So the study from Germany has shown how fungi, Fusarium, penicillin, trichoderma, can colonize and degrade polyurethanes, polyethanol, and tire rubber without any pre-treatments. So this last study is on microplastics, or PFAS, forever chemicals. And so this study from Sweden found that oyster mushrooms can degrade PFAS and parabens. So definitely more studies need to happen in that area. So I'm going to just share a few case studies of different projects that you can learn more about. So this is a pilot project in central Wisconsin, which found that oyster mushrooms, through mycoremediation, they could clean up soil by breaking down the toxins, the petroleum and the heavy metal in the oil. And so the initial results look really good, but again, like more research is needed for this to be studied at a large scale. And with this example too, there's a lot of really great photos. You can kind of see how they actually had to move the soil. So that's one of the biggest challenges of cleaning up soil. Like, how can we clean up soil in place. And that's what Danielle Stevenson, her study, and we had a class with her earlier this year. You can scan the QR code and deep dive on it. But this pilot project that she worked on is her PhD, um, found that native plants and fungi can effectively clean contaminated soil with heavy metals and hydrocarbons. And this approach was tested on industrial sites, and it shows a lot of promise in restoring the soil health and biodiversity. There's been some studies too in India that show how oyster mushrooms can absorb heavy metals. So that's something that you want to be very cautious of. If you don't know what's in your soil already, it's recommended you do a soil test because mushrooms can accumulate heavy metals. Yeah, and Danielle she now lives in Austin, so she's a very great asset to our community here. So roadsides in Massachusetts. This is a pilot project by the Massachusetts Department of Transportation where they've used fungi to manage stormwater. They've demonstrated how to do mycofiltration, which employs the fungal mycelium as a biological filter to reduce pollutants like nitrogen, phosphorus, E. coli, and stormwater. And they used a bunch of different methods, and this pretty detailed paper that they have available for free online shows how they used it they used compost filter tubes, compost blankets, which is something that happens along roadsides. They use wattles, berms, bioretention cells, and more. So if that interests you, scan that QR code. This research found that oysters, which is again a white rot fungi, it can effectively degrade synthetic dyes used in textiles through their enzymatic processes. And so the fungi's enzymes break down the complex dye molecule and they offer a solution for industrial wastewater. We know that, in a lot of parts of the world, it's like a real problem. So studies have also shown that adding decomposer fungi such as oysters, reishi, and turkey tail through log inoculation and spreading mushroom blocks or even spraying liquid spores can increase the decomposition rate of woody matter and agriculture byproducts by 11 times. And this, in effect, like lowers the fire risk. So we're able to return the nutrients back to the forest floor much quickly, and it isn't a fuel during wildfire season. So I hope that you are inspired to do your own experiments with mycoremediation at a small scale, like cleaning up oily rags or small oil spills. And it's important that you collect what you clean up and make sure you properly discard of it through like Austin Resource Recovery. If you're in the Austin area, you don't want to put this in the regular trash. You want to make sure you're safely um, handing it off to someone that can deal with toxic things. And so you can get your soil tested too to see how your test went. And you can there's a lot of companies online. I meant to put in my preferred one, but I don't necessarily have one. But yeah, use one that you trust. And so I'm just going to share a few little highlights here before we end things from different community partners. So Dina from Bastrop Botanical Gardens, she shares that the program provides an opportunity to connect, much like the mycelium, with each other about creating health and well-being from healthy foods, soil, healthy lifestyle choices, all the way to sharing recipes and how to prepare mushroom for family and friends. The recycling program opens doors to create community with common ground, and not much in the present life creates such openness in conversations. And so you can keep an eye out, like if you're in the Bastrop area, Bastrop Botanical Gardens, they've been a great partner and they've been doing all kinds of classes, cooking, log inoculation, low-tech mushroom growing. So they do one event per month. So definitely give them a follow on social media. Um, the Blockhouse Creek Community Garden in Leander is a new community partner, and they like to use the mushroom blocks in their organic practices and to build the healthy fungal rich soil in their sustainable food forests that they're building. And they love teaching the community how to use them, brings everyone together. The Festival Beach Community Garden and also the Festival Beach Food Forest, we partner with them. So at the community gardener, the gardeners love to use the spent mushroom blocks, both in their private plots as well in the garden's communal areas. They incorporate the spent material into the soil as a nutrient-rich amendment, and the porous structure of the mushroom blocks not only enhances soil health, but also helps with moisture retention, supporting plants through dry season. And additionally, the water absorbing quality prevents kind of water pooling during our heavy rains that we get. So this reduces the risk of root rot and promotes a healthier plant growth over time. So Moon Tower Organics, it's a new company that's working on getting things started. So Alan Lee shares that he loves to use the mushroom substrate. It's a very consistent fungal feedstock for creating fungal rich compost. And again, give him a follow. He isn't very active online yet, but he's getting his company started. So now that you've seen all the incredible results from communities using these methods in schools, communities, home gardens, small farms, we see that upcycling mushroom blocks make a significant impact and bring the much needed love of mushrooms to everyone. So here's just a few photos of the fruits of our labors, and we'd love for you to share your success stories and photos with us. So if you want to share your stories, and go ahead and scan that QR code. And so we need your support. So this QR code will take you to a link where you can support us by volunteering, donating, or becoming a member. And it also takes you to more resources and links like our video tutorials, infographics, like step-by-step guides. And if you want 50 or more mushroom blocks for your personal or community project, you can pick a time Monday through Thursday and Sunday at 10 a.m. to pick them up directly from the mushroom farm in North Austin. And we ask that you drop blocks at one of our empty community sites and at different mycology events that we're at. And so sometimes community sites are full, so we still need people to take them all for their own projects. And that is why we are launching a new program today. So we are going to start delivering. If you have a really cool community project that you want to use mushroom blocks, you don't have the means to get them, you don't have a vehicle, you don't have, you're not available like during the times that the mushroom farm has the pickups, like Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m., we can work within our network of volunteers to help get those to you. And so you can apply. We have a new form on our website where you can apply to have those blocks delivered to you. And I just want to emphasize that within the requirements, like you must be a community project that serves the public. So like a community or school garden, food forest, a plant stand, or like a small nonprofit farm. So we don't want for-profit businesses like landscaping companies or developers or people that just have like a personal garden project. We're all about building connections with mycelium, so community projects. And so you must live within 30 miles of Central Austin. And sometimes we can go outside of that But having a load of mushroom blocks means that we would be dropping off like 25 or more. So like could be hundreds, and you could tell us how many you can use. The more, the better. And so you must also have your location accessible for delivery when our volunteer network is taking blocks, so Monday through Thursday between 10 and 12 p.m. And so the mushroom blocks and delivery are free, but of course, we always love when you make a donation or become a member. And now it's time for Q&A, and then we can do the book giveaway after a few questions. How does that sound to everybody?
Sounds good.
All right. What kind of questions do we have? And feel free to unmute, or I can open up the chat too. Yeah.
Can you go over what's going on at the Wildflower Center on Sunday? I kind of missed that.
Yeah, so the Wildflower Center, we're doing a block giveaway. There's going to be several folks out there from volunteers chatting people up. It's free museum day, or it's museum day. So there's no admission fee. And we're going to be demonstrating, having people there, like handing out educational material and um, sharing blocks with everyone.
What time?
It starts at 9 to 1. And
Thank
so
you.
there's a seed swap as well. We're doing it in partnership with the Central Texas Seed Savers. So there's going to be like a native plant seed swap, um, all the good stuff. And there's some really cool like migration art installations. There's also like a soundscape performance that's happening. So definitely check out our website to get all the deets. Yeah, anybody else? So Jeannie, you ask what percentage of the available blocks are currently being used? So from what I've been told by the mushroom farm this summer, we were helping them keep about 60% out of the waste. So it gets difficult in the summer. And we were thinking about just shutting down the program or pausing it during the summer because it's a lot to ask of people to carry those blocks, deliver them, but we did pretty good. 60% is good. We focused on composting. Um, and they produce about, I would say like 4,000 or so blocks a week. And yeah. So Farmer C, you asked, are spent mushroom blocks certified organic? So they are not certified organic. Hi-Fi has not gone through that process. And so, yeah, they're not certified.
But even if they're not certified, they're still basically organic, right?
Yes. So it's just that they don't have the certification.
Cost. Yeah, they
Yeah,
just don't have the costly certification.
Yeah,
exactly.
it
Yeah.
costs a lot of money for a small company to get certified.
And that's one of the reasons why we help them too. So, we know like running a small business can be challenging. And so it's just been a way for us to really build a community, especially in a place where we can't go do mushroom walks all the time. It's like pretty dry here. East Texas is another story, but it allows for us to continue to be active and do things as a nonprofit and organization. So Gwen, you asked about the QR code. So this is recorded, and the same link that I emailed out to everyone is also on our YouTube channel. So you can, if you're watching from a laptop, I guess you can scan the QR codes. I think I'm going to just put all of the links in the YouTube. So after this, I'll take all my links to studies and just link them in the YouTube as well. QR codes can be annoying. I'm not like the biggest fan, but it was the only way I felt like I could get a lot of information in.
Since there's
Yeah,
not a lot of, oh,
yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Any other questions before we say
yeah, since there's not a lot of other questions, could you go over the part with the tree where there's going to be blocks and trees? When and where's that?
Yeah, so we have them all of our on our calendar. So all the block giveaways, there's two in October, two in November, two in January, and two in February. So check those and go to the one in your neighborhood.
But you mentioned one where they're going to have trees as well.
Yes, they all will.
Oh, they all will. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Yeah, and you must be Austin. They kind of check, but you're supposed to be an Austin resident. Yeah, so Sago, am I saying that right? You're concerned about using the blocks in the green mold in the chicken coop. So yeah, that can be a problem if like there's a lot of moisture. Um, but really if it's dry, like I mean, I don't know how much moisture or how moist you keep the chicken coop, but yeah, like mold can be an issue. I know that like in Trad Cotter's book that he has, it was more of like they buried like before they built the coop, they did this technique where they buried blocks, like kind of trench composting, like where all of the manure would fall on the ground. And the mushroom blocks were underneath there, kind of absorbing that. And they also did kind of like, like around the perimeter. I don't know if they use like a wattle, which is like a netting that you can use to do mycofiltration. But yeah, any other questions? I'm gonna go ahead and just go to the last slide. So yeah, so if you don't already follow us, you can always, and you have a question that comes up in the near future, you can always email us. Our website, centraltexasmycology.org. On most social media, we're Central Texas Mycology. We appreciate everybody learning with us tonight. Yes, and Dwayne says reach out with any questions you have about the meme lab. And we definitely appreciate everyone's support, and we hope that you can join us in the fungal fun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.